We continue with the lecture of the chapter A Visit to Cambridge. We had stopped where earlier in the last lecture we had stopped at the moment in the chapter where Firdaus gets to meet Stephen Hawking. The very sight of it, the very sight of him, he feels so elated and so blessed to see how can people get touched by the aura of certain people. Let's proceed further and let's see what else does the chapter tell us. A lot of people seem to think that disabled people are chronically unhappy. I said, Firdaus over here means by this statement that when you are a disabled person, or you're specially able as I call them, so life doesn't seem to be normal to you. And when life is not normal, people start judging. And when people start judging, it's very difficult to cope with the pressure. So he says that those who are disabled are generally considered to be very, very sad. Chronically unhappy means to the core extent unhappy. I know that's not true myself. Are you often laughing inside? He himself is a true exemplary example over here that even if you have many oddities in your life, you don't give up. So he says, I might be laughing with him at this statement, but it isn't true. After 3 minutes later, he responded, I find it amusing when people patronize me. So he says like patronizing means saying that you're a typical kind of something. Okay, so he would say like you are this kind of, you're this sort of. So he says like I do realize that when people see disabled people, they think that their life is miserable automatically. And do you find it annoying when someone like me comes and disturbs you in your work? So Firdaus asks Stephen that every now and then people drop at your place and they come and interview you or want to talk to you or just want to see you. Is it annoying when people do such things? The answer flashed. Why flashed here? Because he can't speak. He types. With his fingers, whatever he manages to type words. So the computer speaks it out for him. Yes. Then he smiled his one-way smile and I knew, without being sentimental or silly, that I was looking at one of the most beautiful men in the world. Certain people, if they're suffering like hell from within, and only a grin on their face, why one-sided might be one-sided, is paralytic over here and his head is always inclined like this. So he saw a part of the grin and he noticed that it was the most beautiful smile he had ever seen in his life, which reflects that no matter how much pain life has given us or how many challenges life has given us, I have come out as a victorious person out of it. The first glimpse of him is shocking because he is like a still photograph, as if all those pictures of him in the magazine and newspapers have turned three-dimensional. So when you see a person like sitting still in a particular position on a wheelchair, you would also feel like, does he have life in him? Because the only part which is moving are his limbs, like that is 4 fingers. So like fingers. So like he would, the very moment you would look at Stephen Hawking, you would have a doubt, saying that he looks like a photograph, wherein his pictures create such an effect that he looks alive more in his pictures. Then you see the head twisted sideways into a slump, the torso shrunk inside the pale blue shirt, the wasted legs. You look at his eyes which can speak still and they are saying something huge and urgent. It is hard to tell what. So here's his entire the description of how he looks, physical description. Head twisted sideways, as I said. Okay? And then his torso, the upper part of the body, looks shrunk because he's very pale and weak. So his shirt might be a little bit loose fitting for him. because he has lost weight. The wasted legs, those legs were never used in his life, because he was paralytic right from the beginning. You look at his eyes, which he can speak. So the only and only relatable body part with which you can communicate is actually the eyes. People say that you can talk through your eyes. The various, I would say, the way we look when we are sad, the way we look when we are happy, when we are distressed, everything can be spoken with the help of the eye. So his eyes could speak. They were still, they wouldn't move, but they had something to say very urgently, and that was huge. But you are shaken because you have seen something you never thought could be seen. A normal person speaking and you listening to that person commending or criticizing is okay, part of the life. But if a person doesn't say anything and you listen to that person, is a great deal in life. So this man sat still over there, and Firdaus could definitely understand what is he trying to communicate. Before you, like a lantern whose walls are worn so thin you glimpse only the light inside, is the incandescence of a man. Now, very beautifully explained. When the aura of a person is bright, aura is the internal energy what you possess. If you are a positive person, you will possess a positive energy. If you are a negative person, if you are a pessimistic, you will have a negative energy. So the aura of the man was so bright and happy and gay that his body seemed to be like a lantern. You know what's a lantern, right? Now, lantern has got a thin film of glass on the top, and it's got a light burning inside, which glows, which makes the lantern glow. So his body also, his aura also is compared to the lantern, saying the outer body must be weak and frail, but the aura of his soul was so bright that he could see it through. The body almost irrelevant. Here body doesn't matter at all, because that man himself was such an inspiration. Exists only like a case made of shadows. It's only a case in which you keep things. So his soul is in his body and it's just acting like a case. The body, so that I, no believer in eternal souls, know that this is what each of us, everything else an accessory. So definitely a very bold statement to pass. It is said, like in mythology also it is said, and those who believe in spirituality also believe, soul is indestructible. Marta sirf shareer hai, only a human body dies. The soul never dies. So the soul elevates itself from the body when one passes away. The soul is indestructible. There is no death to the soul. Okay? So here he says everything else is materialistic. Matlab, if a person dies, there is no value to the body. You would go and cremate it, or you would go and bury it. Okay? But you can't do anything to the soul. It is free always. What do you think is the best thing about being disabled? I had asked him earlier. I didn't think there is anything good about being disabled. A great sense of humor. If you can laugh at your own disabilities, that's the best position you can ever have, gifted by God. I think I said, you do discover how much kindness there is in the world. So he says, like, there is kindness in the world, not that almost everybody is judgmental over here. There is kindness around. Yes, he said. It was a disadvantage of his voice synthesizer that it could convey no inflection, no shades or tone. He's talking through a machine, remember. So sometimes when you're very happy, your voice changes. Very sad, you have got something, you feel like something is choking within, and then again your voice changes. You're excited about something, your voice changes. But this modulation of voice cannot be recorded by the computer. So he says it was a disadvantage of using a system, a mechanical system to talk, because it wouldn't convey his feelings the way a human being would talk. That was missing. And I could not tell how enthusiastically he agreed with me. Though you can see though you can't hear his voice, you can see his body language, the way he's trying to say it. So he says enthusiastically with all zeal and energy, he says yes. Every time I shifted in my chair or turned my wrist to watch the time, I wanted to make every one of our 30 minutes count. I felt a huge relief and exhilaration in the possibilities of my body. How little it mattered then that I would never walk or even stand. As I said at the beginning of lecture, the beginning of the chapter, what impact does a person leave in your life? You're looking at that person, and what impact does it leave on your life does matter a lot. That's how you choose your idols. Like, she's my idol, he's my idol. Why? Because something in them inspires you continuously to do your best. In spite of having so many difficulties in life, if you learn from them, fight back, boss, don't lean against the chair and then say, why has God chosen me to be like this? Don't do that to yourself. Don't self-pity. Don't fall in the trap of self-pity. Fight back. So when he saw Stephen Hawking live in front of it, he was counting his minutes over there. Would this go on forever? Can I be a part of it forever? No, it was a 30-minute time gap to give duration given to him so that he could talk to him. But here, in those 30 minutes, he left such an impact on him that not being able to stand or walk did not matter now to Firdaus Kamran. So, I will stop here for now, and the last part of the lecture I will send you later. Thank you.